Welcome to the Fit 40 podcast, where we take all the confusing, conflicting fitness and nutrition information and break it down so that you can live your healthiest, strongest, most energized life. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons. Let's get it started. All right, what's up, everybody? Back with another fun-filled podcast. Two incredible guests today. We have Rachel and Jordan from the While the Kids Are in Bed podcast. I know I've known Rachel for the past couple months, like in our accountability group. Jordan, this is my first time meeting her, but I've seen their content. Looks incredible. They're loaded with tons of great info when it comes to moms, especially around pregnancy and post-pregnancy, when it comes to fitness, nutrition. So this is going to be a hell of an episode. I'm excited. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I'm very happy to have you guys on. Now, before we get started, why don't you guys give a little intro, like tell the audience about yourself.
All right. I'll go first. I am Rachel. I was a elementary education teacher turned fitness coach. So do coaching, personal training in person, and do online coaching now as well. And then I have a 5-month-old little girl. So that's kind of what spurred us getting onto the podcast, is just how much life changes after you have kids.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I'm Jordan, and Rachel and I met in college. We were roommates, and that's kind of where I would say we connected a lot on the fitness and nutrition aspect of things. I have a background in marketing and still work part-time in marketing, and have 2 kids. I always have to think of their ages. Like, how old are they right now? 3.5, a 3.5-year-old boy and a 1-year-old little girl.
All right. Awesome. So you guys are in the thick of it as far as with little kids trying to keep everything running smooth and everything like that. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'd love to know, because the first question that I get a lot of times is, you're 29 without kids. How can you help me out? And it's like, I only learn from helping others. And I know you guys are living it and walking the talk. What are some of the biggest challenges yourself that you're like, I really didn't see this one coming, but you found a way around it to keep your fitness and nutrition on point?
That's a good question. I would have to say, for me, because I am like in a new mom stage, I had worked out beforehand. I thought I was going to be like ready to go. Like, as soon as the doctor gave me clearance, I thought I was going to be like back in the gym, like, oh, I can't wait. And I was ready to move my body, but I wasn't like as gung-ho as I thought I was going to be. And so for me, it was really giving yourself freedom to kind of take a step back and be gentle with yourself and get back in the groove. Like, I walked, I did stuff, but it wasn't what I was doing immediately, before pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And that really shocked me, because I was like, because when you move your body for so long and then all of a sudden you don't, you're just like, oh, you think you're going to be ready to get back in the groove. So I think for me, it was finding different ways to move your body and be healthy and be active, but it's okay if it doesn't look exactly the way it used to look before.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And especially because progress isn't linear. It sometimes feels like you're taking 2 steps back and only 1 step forward, when you kind of have to look at the long range goal and take it, just 1 step at a time.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Because it is tough to accept the fact that you're in a new phase, and it's like, you got to embrace it and see where it takes you.
Mm-hmm. I remember looking, I have a Apple Watch, and I have my calorie expenditure goal that I was always hitting. And I remember being like, what the heck, and why am I, like Rachel said, why am I not basically where I was before I had kids? And yes, it was a life-altering change of events that happened. But in my mind, I, like Rachel said, was expecting to be kind of right back at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough because you come from a mental place of I'm Superwoman. And then it's like kids are here, and it's like, oh, wow, they just took half of me with them.
Exactly.
Well,
It's so true.
so how would you say that you've built yourself back up? Like, what are some like key things that you've stuck to yourselves that are like, okay, I've found a way to get myself back to 100%? Or is that even a thing? This is somebody who doesn't know, just asking.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's a good, I don't know. You're making me think about stuff that I don't know if I've thought about before. Um, I will say, like, because I teach group fitness, so I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came home and I was like, I'm back. Like it felt like
I'm
I was
back, baby.
back. Yeah, yeah. I was like I was pushing them again because before it's like, God, are they? I know I'm feeling it because I just had a baby. Like, are they? Are they getting it the same I am? So, but I think for me, it was finding consistency. It was being, like pushing yourself, but also like, I don't know, it's like paying attention to the little things. It was like I remember like, I was like, okay, as much as you're taking care of your baby, you also have to take care of you. Like you have to eat, you have to drink your water, like you have to do those little things or eat. Because even without having a kid, if you don't fuel your body appropriately, you're not going to be able to work out and do it to your max ability. And it's even more so that way after giving birth. So it was like, for me, I just remember thinking like, okay, you have to get up and move. You can't just sit here all day and not eat and not drink your water and expect to have any energy to do anything. So that was for me. And then each time I went to the gym, I was just trying to push myself a little bit harder. Like, okay, maybe you do a little bit heavier weights this time. Maybe you go, a little bit harder. But it was setting like small attainable goals to kind of get back in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And for me, I felt like it was a little, I always feel kind of selfish saying this because, we had my now oldest, and then I felt like I was back. And then we're talking about having another kid. And you're like, gosh, I just feel, I'm riding this roller coaster where I felt like I was, going 110%. And then I had to slow down through, a little bit through pregnancy and then postpartum. And here we are feeling like I'm back at it. And now having to like go through that journey again. And I just kept telling myself, I did it once, like I had to slow down and I came back to exactly where I felt like I was when I left. Like I can do it again. And it's just like Rachel was saying, listening to your body and on the days that you feel like you can, pushing yourself a little more. Again, progress isn't linear. So maybe it's not day after day. But I also had to really plan for the unexpected. And it kind of goes back to just feeling like I know what my time constraints were prior to kids. And it took several weeks and even months of figuring out like, I need more time to get ready. I need to plan. I mean, even for this podcast, it's like trying to get the kids settled, fed and situated. I can't run out the door, 5 minutes, with 5 minutes time and time to spare, minutes to spare, like I could pre-kids, and just planning for those little hiccups, because the last thing I want is to look at I've looked at my watch and been like, I'm never going to make this like fitness class or whatever. Like I should just try again tomorrow. And I've really had to look at my health and fitness as a holistic journey and not just the calorie expenditure on my watch. And like Rachel touched on, the water aspect and making sure I'm fueling my body, especially on those days, every day, but especially on those days that maybe my fitness wasn't where I was expecting it to be. So just kind of looking at all aspects of that.
All right. Yeah. I mean, very like I couldn't have said it better because like I know with my clients, it's always that talk of like right now is like that little window of what's going on. And then when you zoom out, the trend is going in the right direction. So it's really a matter of like just making sure that you're doing the right things day to day and then looking big picture, not so much little picture. Would you agree?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you can get caught in the nitty gritty of life. I mean, it's crazy. The life with a baby, it goes by fast, but then like the everyday things, like I'll think about something, I'm like, God, that happened last week and it was Monday, like yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, like that will only, so it is, you can get so caught up in like the little itty bitty things that you think like, I'm not doing anything, or it's just like, pure hell, or, whatever. But like you said, big picture, thinking about your week or your month, especially how much things change for your body. Like you'll be one instant not be able to do it. And then in like, in a blink of an eye, you're able to walk and just do so many things easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it from listening to both of you, it just sounds like it's really a measure of like how honest can you be with yourself and how can you translate that to schedule and like holding yourself accountable.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I think it would be detrimental if you pretended that you were going to be able to do everything, like Jordan said, like in the schedule and the time that you could do it before. So you do have to have that real honest conversation. Like it's not going to look the same, but you have to be careful because you don't want to give yourself too much grace because then
Exactly.
like, oh, it's been 6 months and I haven't done, a thing. So it's having that sweet spot of like, give yourself permission to start small, but you have to get started and find something to do, and make, like you said, make it a priority. Because if you, that's why I tell people all the time too, when they're debating, I hear a lot too, like people that are pregnant and they're debating on starting working out because they're so focused on the weight gain. Well, why worry about this if I'm planning on getting pregnant and then I'm going to gain it all back? And I always say, like, please start, because it's so hard to get back to a routine. I can only imagine what it feels like to start a new routine. I mean, that's a whole different ball
Yeah.
game.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that what they say? Like even like the best time to start working out for pregnancy is before pregnancy, because the
Yes.
healthier mom is beforehand, the better off the baby is.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
You feel better. Like it, I can only imagine somebody that's never worked out. Jordan and I talk about this a lot because I would text her, her going through it before me, like making sure I was being safe with working out. I know what my body feels when I'm pushing myself without pregnancy. Like I know what feels right and wrong. So when I was pregnant, it was like, okay, this is normal workout, not pregnancy related. If someone's never worked out and then they're pregnant working out, they're going to be terrified. I mean, there's no way around
Yeah.
it because they don't know the difference.
Yeah. They don't know their typical level of exertion.
Yes, yes.
Yep. And to that point, I know a lot of people are very like fearful for that reason, especially when it comes to heavy weights. Now,
Mhm.
being that you both have been through it and stayed as fit as possible throughout the journey, what would you say to people that like moms that are like, say, first trimester that are like, I don't know if I want to touch those heavy weights. I don't think it's healthy.
That's a tough one. I worked out like nothing was different up until maybe the second, third trimester. And to be honest, it's more because you already have so much weight on you at that point that you really just have a hard time lifting the heavy weights. But at the beginning, there's nothing that you're going to do. I mean, now granted, don't do some crazy trampoline class or whatever, but
So
lifting,
CrossFit high level, not a good idea.
yeah, it's like just, don't go crazy, but I didn't change what I did until my belly like affected my range of motion. It was my rule of thumb.
And I think it's always good to have like a coach, or if you're doing a workout class, making sure they know that you're pregnant,
Mhm.
and they can guide you through anything that feels uncomfortable, particularly when it comes to maybe like traditional ab exercises and things, or any exercises laying on your stomach. It's always good to have someone that can kind of give some guidance of here's a modification if your body does not feel comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say it's fair to say, because I know like we've all done our due diligence, like learning as much as possible for when that time comes as a coach, like you can pretty much do almost anything as long as you know how far is too far.
hmm Yeah, like Jordan said, like knowing your body and what feels okay. Like just because I felt okay doing that doesn't mean that somebody else is going to feel that
Mhm.
way. So
Mhm.
listening to your body and just what feels right. Like you have intuition. So if it's like I just don't feel comfortable doing this, I don't like it, then there's I always tell people there are thousands upon thousands of exercises out there. We can find another way for you to target that area of your body that makes you feel more comfortable.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
I still worked out. I had a coach that we still did ab exercise, core exercises, because that was still so important through pregnancy. It just didn't look like the traditional, ab crunch and things like that. But I think, Rachel, to your point, that kind of goes back to starting before, as soon as you can, because then you really do, you really will know your body better.
Yeah. And good point about that core training, because I mean, like, you want to talk about one of the ways to reduce pain during pregnancy. How about not feeling like you're carrying 1,000 pounds when if you did some core training ahead of time, that could really help you out.
Definitely.
Oh,
I
gosh,
mean, it'll help back pain. I mean, you're carrying what felt like to me like a basketball loaded right on the front of your body. I mean, the proportions of where that weight is going. You can feel it if you don't. And some of those exercises really do help.
Yeah. I know I had a client or two where like they had a baby and they were getting ready for number 2 or number 3, and they'd done like some farmer carries, like some front squats this time around. And they're like, holy crap, I would have done this way beforehand. Like, it's so much better.
Yeah, it makes a game changer. Like, granted, I only have one pregnancy to compare to, and I was active, but I know plenty of women who were unactive during pregnancy, and then those that were active. And without a doubt, the ones that were active before, during, and after had such a smoother, more enjoyable pregnancy than those that didn't do anything. The people that I know that were unactive were, miserable. I mean, because it's just such a hard thing to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I even think I did more weight training for my second, not intentionally, but just that's kind of where my focus went. And going back to your question about the weights, I really felt like I was in better shape because I had done less high intensive cardio and more weight training throughout my second pregnancy. And I felt like that was monumental in recovery and getting back to where I was pre-pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, quick question as far as like when we were talking about like what's too far, like were there any like in your head like red flags where you're like, as long as I don't hit this point, I'm good? Or was it just a general like, yeah, this isn't right?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think there are times where you just know something doesn't feel right. But for me, it's really how your body feels. So like your pelvic floor, everything is changing. Like, so little things like that. Like I remember, like I teach bar, and it was literally just, we're on one leg lifting the other leg, standing. And it was, again, this is at the very end of the pregnancy, but then I would I would switch legs, and I was like, oh, that feels slightly harder than it once was, so it was really, and I didn't stop completely. It was just taking it slower. So I think it's things like that where you're kind of like constantly measuring and just kind of taking a pulse of how it feels, and then you're kind of like, oh well, let me back up a little bit and see how that feels with lighter weight, or maybe going slower. Like, don't use the resistance bands where you may have used them before. But I don't remember ever an instance where I was like, oh gosh, like, no, that was too much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember looking at my heart rate, and I felt like it was even lower than it has been pre-pregnancy, but feeling like I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I know I need to slow it down, but it wasn't an indication. I couldn't look at like heart rate as a measurement of when I should stop. It really was just feeling like I probably need to take a break right now, and I'll get back into it when I feel better in a few minutes.
Yeah. So it really just gets back to that body awareness of like, I know what right feels like, and I know what wrong feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like how you brought up the pelvic floor, and that's one of the directions I definitely wanted to go down, because I know for a lot of women, especially the majority of women who have given birth, incontinence is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know where I used to work, we had something called the golden rule, which is don't make the moms jump. And
no jumping jacks.
No jumping jacks, no fast feet, just anything we could do to make sure that they're not going to pee themselves in the warm up, because you never want to start a workout that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's very kind of you to think about that. If I could scream this from the rooftops, I would. It is normal for you to feel that way, but it is not okay for it to last forever. So it's not that it's abnormal. Nothing's wrong with you if that's happening. But when women talk and they're like, oh, that's just the way it's going to be for the rest of my life, is I can't do jumping jacks because I had 2 babies. That is false information. And because we live in a culture where after you have the baby, they don't really care about the mom so much. Like, you get one checkup and then they don't see you for another year. So it's just hard because people don't have that education that can change and be fixed. So it's like, it happens, it does, but you can work, just like building other muscles, you can work on it and get to the point where you are not leaking every time you try to do a jumping jack or jump on the trampoline with your kids or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know when people think pelvic floor, I mean, for the uneducated, especially myself, all I think is, well, Kegels. Okay. What else? Now, are there anything else I know that there's a physical therapist that specializes in the pelvic floor. Is there anything that people can do on their own, or should they seek out the professional and just call it a day?
I mean, it depends on how you are feeling. I know plenty of people who just didn't feel like they had the knowledge themselves and went to see a pelvic floor therapist. And they can help a lot. They can give you tips of bathroom and different exercises and all of that stuff. The things that I did, Kegels obviously are great. They're a reason why they're so popular. Glute bridges, anything like that, glute work, outer thigh work, anything, like I was saying, like standing on one leg and trying to transition, all that helps. And the biggest thing is to really try not to go to the bathroom as often. So I know that sounds crazy, but I was actually talking with a pelvic floor therapist a while ago, and she said that's what she works on with her patients. She's like, the people that are like, oh, I better go to the bathroom, or I'm, because we're about to get in the car, you start to signal to your brain that you're just going to pee all the time. So then your muscles don't have to work to not pee, if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
so she works slowly on okay, if you feel the urge to pee, see, don't risk it, but see how long, little increments, wait 5 minutes and then go, and then start building yourself up, because you're creating those stronger muscles to where you can, because you should be able to hold it in. I mean, to a certain degree, you should be able to hold it in. So she really works on that. So that's something too. If you feel like you're going to the bathroom all the time, try to work on pausing before you go.
That's some great advice. That's one that I've actually never heard before. So I bet a lot of people listening are probably going to try that now.
Yeah. Don't take it too far, because you'll have accident. But
Alex will be like, we've only been on the road an hour. Did you go beforehand?
yeah. Jordan goes all the time, but you also drink a ton of water.
I drink a lot. Yeah, that's my excuse.
Hydrate pelvic floor for you.
This comes with a little asterisk. If you're working on your water goal, totally normal.
Yes.
If you are initially going to the bathroom a lot.
Yes. Like everybody else, it'll calm down, but please don't risk it at your desk if you are trying to up your
No, we don't want people wetting themselves at work.
Right.
But that's great tips. And let's shift it more towards clients in particular, because I know that you guys have invaluable experience yourselves, but it's a whole other ballgame when you're coaching other people. Now, with your experience with people that you've worked with, what are some common things that you see, especially in the moms, that you're if everybody could just address this and do this, most of them would be better off?
That's a good question. I think asking for help is probably the biggest thing. Is you're not going to be able to change habits or start a new journey without asking somebody for help, whether it's your partner, grandparents, a babysitter, whatever. You just cannot do it all on your own. And as women, we think that we can, and we can do a lot of amazing stuff, but there's only so much time in the day. And I just see so many women who are so focused on helping others that they don't give themselves the same attention. I've had to talk to clients about okay, you're working out for an hour. I get you need to have your phone on you in an emergency, but you don't need to be answering every message you get right now. And I mean, it's like constant, like message from a sister, mom, her daughter, just all kinds of stuff. So for me, it'd be like, ask for help. If you want to go to the gym, find one maybe with childcare. I know Jordan, has done a little bit of both of that with like finding that, and then, or asking a spouse or somebody to watch the kids so you can have some time for you, whether it's working out or just me time in general. That's really important, and moms, I don't think do that enough.
Yeah,
I totally
definitely.
agree.
Definitely. Because that whole concept of just like working as a team and like with your spouse or like with your family and being like, listen, can you just watch them? Like mama needs me time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can't really pour from an empty cup, right?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You're going to do whatever you need to do to take care of your children and your family. But if you're walking around like a zombie and just exhausted all the time and just, slightly on the edge of depression, like you're not being the best version of yourself. And like Jordan said earlier, like it's going to take a lot more planning and a lot more thought to do the things you need to do now. So that's the
Mhm.
thing. Like, you've got to
Yeah.
reach out and be intentional with your time. Look at your week and plan it out. We talked about this one episode on our podcast. Like, you're not going to just spur of the moment do it. Like, you didn't do that before kids. You're definitely not going to do it after kids. So you've really got to have a schedule planned so you can, or if it's for nap time or whatever, but where
Mhm.
you're going to go and do something.
Mhm. I mean, it might mean working out in the morning before your kids wake up.
Yeah.
Because we've said before, I mean, there's a million unexpected things that happen throughout the day that can come up, and how bad do you want to make your own health a priority? So
Yeah. And it's funny you say all this because I literally just saw one of the other OTA coaches posted something that's like, everybody says they'll do anything for their family, but
Yeah.
will you put yourself first for your family? And a lot of people don't do that.
No, because you feel selfish, like you feel like mom guilt is a thing. You feel guilty about everything you do or don't do. That is something that you can't explain or plan for. Like, people will talk about it until you're in the thick of it. You just really don't get how heavy that is. And there is guilt with being away from your kids, or like I told Jordan, like even if she's with me and I'm doing something else and my full attention isn't on her, I feel guilty about that. I mean, it's just this crazy emotional ride. So it's like it's like you've got to find that time and start small, 10, like you
mhm.
said, a 10-minute walk, 30 minutes here or there. Um, because at the end of the day, you're just going to miss out on so much more if you don't feel your best. I mean, Ben and I were talking about this last night. Like, when everybody gets sleep, the baby and the parents, everybody's happier. So,
Mhm.
set that a priority to make everybody be in a better mood.
I also love that now that Graham's, he's 3.5, so he has like more awareness, and we can have, these conversations that we couldn't have when we were younger. He knows he'll come to the gym with me sometimes because they do have child watch, and that way gives my husband a little break where he can only, deal with the youngest. But Graham is the same. He'll say, my son will say, okay, Mama, are we going to go to the gym on Saturday and you'll exercise while I'll play? And I'll say, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And like one Saturday, we didn't go. And he's like, we didn't go to the gym today. And I was like, I know, buddy, we'll go next week. And he'll remind me to walk the dog. I mean, it's really sweet. Like, I feel like now we've kind of I'm realizing that I'm creating these healthy habits for him that he can see, whether it's me making myself a priority or just us enjoying something together. It's been fun to not, it does take a little bit of that mom guilt away. And I'm really appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you actually just brought back a memory I didn't remember I had, because I have one aunt that would always bring me and my cousin to the play area while she did her like step aerobics class or something. And as
Yeah,
a kid, you're just like, oh, this is a fun time. We're at the gym. This is great. And then you
it's
build
great.
that positive association in your head that carries into being an adult, where you're like, the gym's a fun place. It's not a place where I go to die. And like,
Right.
it's not a place where I like feel absolutely horrible. It's a place that brings me back to life and gives me energy.
Right. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's awesome that your kids are getting that leg up, because I know a lot of people don't see it that way.
Mm-mm.
And that negative association can also carry into their kids and be like, oh, well, mom really doesn't like exercise. It must be a really bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But I'm loving all this useful info because I mean, like I've said on many of the previous podcasts, I'm like, I love just sitting back and learning with the audience because you guys are providing tons of great stuff right now. Now I just want to make sure I'm respectful of your time because I know we're coming up towards like that hour mark. I got one more thing, one more thing I had a question on, and that is like when it comes to like post pregnancy, and I'm talking like 40s, 50s, 60s. When we're talking about those people that like have accepted the fact, like, oh, this is just how it is. Would
Mhm.
you say that they're pretty much stuck where they're at, or is it never too late to improve the things that we've talked about?
Oh gosh, it's never too late. I mean, the majority of women I have really worked with have been, 40s plus, and it's a harder journey for sure. I mean, the longer you wait. But no, I mean, it's definitely I won't say everything's reversible, but a lot of it is like a lot, like everything is a muscle. Like we talk about pelvic floor as a muscle. So just like your other muscles can get stronger at any age and change, all of that can change and get stronger. When they get to that age, people think, oh, I'm going to have surgery and all this stuff. And like we talk about with everything with fitness, like most of the time, the pain can be relieved by losing weight and strengthening your muscles. So just like that, it's like you're not stuck there. You can always make a change, but it is harder because I think as women get older, you're not only just taking care of your kids and your spouse, but then you have aging parents that you're taking care of, you know, dealing with siblings to try to take care of your parents. So it's like the longer you wait, yes, your kids are older, but I don't find that older women have less responsibility. They're not in the thick of like the tiny baby toddler stage, but it's almost like it gets worse because they have more things. Their kids are going off to college and they're stressed about that, and all that emotion. So it gets harder the longer you wait, but it's not impossible.
Yep, absolutely. I know like when we screen, like when I screen people, one of the first questions I ask is, do you have any injuries or anything like that? And then the next question is, when you had your kids, did anything change? Like, did one side get tighter or did you have this like phantom pain? And there's still
Mhm.
people dealing with the stress of being pregnant into their 50s and 60s that I know I've worked with that like sometimes that pain goes away. So it's
Mhm.
definitely not a lost cause.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You can always get better. Now,
absolutely.
yeah. Now, the very last thing that we end every guest podcast with is a very important question. Basically tells the people, should I trust these people? Like, did everything they say was crap? And that is, what's your favorite movie and why?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. You need to give us a heads up. That is a tough one.
This one I intentionally tell nobody about.
oh
Oh
my goodness,
God.
that's
How
awful.
how much time do we have? Okay. All right.
On
I'm
the
gonna go
clock,
with
rapid fire,
the,
go.
the first thing that comes to my mind is Dirty Dancing. Very cliche. I have watched it since I was a young kid. Like I had told my parents the other weekend, like, it's shocking that you let me watch that when I was like, um, I have, I don't know. I'm not a dancer, none of that. I'm not good at any of that. I think it's just like a classic. Patrick Swayze's amazing. Um, typical good girl falls for a bad boy. I don't know. It's just, if it's on TV, I'm going to watch it every time.
Solid choice.
I will say Elf. I feel like I've said this one or that's kind of it. The only thing that comes to mind the past couple of years is just like a movie that I can watch and I know like what lines are coming up and it still makes me laugh every single time.
Non-Christmas? Like, do you watch it when it's not Christmas time?
Well, it's typically not on.
Right.
So I feel like I just end up catching it close to Christmas. But my time, I'm not a movie buff in general. Like there's a lot of movies my husband will say, like, you haven't seen, I don't know, Caddyshack or even Top Gun. Like I'm not a movie buff. So um that is just I feel like I've seen that a lot and it always makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's me and my girlfriend. I'm like, how have you not seen this?
I
Like
know.
we watched Spirited with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, and
Oh, how was that one?
it's basically making fun of A Christmas Carol, and
Oh,
she's
yeah.
missing all these references left
The
and right.
references.
And I'm like, have you never seen A Christmas Carol or read the book? And she's like, I have, I just don't remember. I'm like, how?
Like, this is not making it fun for me. We can't banter on the things that they're talking about.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah, that's
laughing my
me.
ass off, and you're just like in your phone, not paying attention. What the hell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just wait till you have kids. Then you really have a lot less time.
Oh, great.
Yeah, catch her up now.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. Well, great answers, guys. And again, thank you. You provided some incredibly actionable information that I know everybody listening is definitely going to get a lot out of. And if anybody does hear this and they start using the information, make sure to tag us, like all three of us, like let us know, hey, I put that 5-minute timer on. I got to pee. Let Instagram know. Let everybody know. And
Yes.
be sure to let us know. And if you guys want to catch Rachel and Jordan, let the people know, where can they find you?
We are on Instagram at While the Kids Are in Bed podcast. And then we're also on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Again, thank you guys for coming on. Everybody listening, go kick some ass. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode and you're a new listener, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. And if you're a returning listener, I would love your feedback. If you could take 2 seconds to just leave a quick review on iTunes or Spotify and rate the show, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you in advance and have a great rest of your week.